Hi, and welcome to another episode of Upward Trajectory. Today, I'm so excited to have Hillary with us. Hillary is the host of Helping of Happiness, and I'm so happy to have you on today, Hillary. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This is super fun.
Yes, and I found you and reached out to you and was so excited that you were willing to be on my podcast. And I listening to your podcast, it has the right vibe. It resonated with me, and I knew I had to have you on and just kind of talk about what's going on in your life. I know you had some struggles through COVID and how your podcast came about, that kind of thing. So, would you like to share with our listeners?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So, as I was going through some of your podcasts, I'm realizing a lot of your guests have these big, huge, giant struggles. And I was having a really hard time coming up with something really big because, of course, we all have struggles, but I feel like one time. But as I was thinking about it, we definitely have had some COVID struggles, as
Wow.
everybody has.
Yes.
One of my big ones was my oldest daughter was in her freshman year of college, and getting that call that she needed to come home early from school. And we were actually traveling in New Orleans at the time of the call. We were on a trolley bus with, not a bus, but a trolley, like a little tour of packed in, I don't know, 50, 60 different people, just packed in this thing. And that's when we found out the world was closing, and we're
Yeah.
looking around going, I think that this is about as least social distancing as we could possibly doing right now.
How
It was
ironic.
super surreal. Yeah. So she's like, I got to come home. And then we found out that schools were shutting down and church was shutting down, and it was just kind of spinning crazy. And she had plans to go on a mission for our church in the fall, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And she'd had a job up at school, and since she had no job, and jobs are really hard to find here, there's pretty much everybody coming home from school at once, and everybody was looking for work. And even older people that needed to have kind of fill those younger kid jobs. So she was having a hard time finding something. And so, and I also teach piano lessons out of my home. And so I'd shut down my business because everything was shutting down. And so there just wasn't anything extra to be giving her for
Right.
her mission that she wanted to do. And it was like, we were okay. We weren't felt like we were financially in desperation, but they're definitely to help her. I just kept praying about it and thinking about it, and it kept coming to my head that we should make caramel apples, which I thought was kind of a bizarre thing to be making in the spring because that's kind of a fall treat, and it just seemed really strange. But I just decided to go with it, and I just threw it out there on our Instagram and just said, well, we're thinking of doing some caramel apple sales. Who would be in for it? And we had instantly all of these. Helping of Happiness, I'd run that podcast, but I also run a food blog. So these caramel apples was a recipe that was on my blog. And so we were like, great, okay, we're going to do that. And we made some apple dip and some, I can't remember if that was just the only two things that we started with, but it ended up being a weekly thing that we started doing, a treat of the week or a savory something every week through a good part of the summer until she found work, which was quite a while. It ended up being a while that we ended up doing this. And so it was a little tricky. She had to learn how to go to the grocery store and shop for supplies. And so I'm a mom of 7, so I couldn't always be doing all of these things. So she really had to take it on as her job. And we were trying to price out how much it would be to make each of the treats so that we came out on top. And so she had to learn how to do that. And then so it's just this big business learning curve. It
Wow.
started to get bigger and bigger. And one week we were doing, and some weeks weren't as heavy, but one week we were doing pretzel rolls, and we had an order for 400, and we had to make it all fresh because we wanted to be a fresh product, but it all landed on one day. So
Oh my.
figuring out timing of just a double oven and that many rolls and, just one bread maker and a KitchenAid, trying to mix that many batches of dough. So, through the week, we're like making all this dough around the clock so we'd have enough dough to fill those orders. And
Oh my goodness.
so
That's crazy. And I missed the number. You had said the number and it glitched a
oh
little bit.
yeah,
How many pretzel rolls?
that particular day we needed 342 pretzel rolls
Oh my goodness.
and
That's a lot.
416 ounces of queso. So
Wow.
one of our tender mercies with that is that we had some miracle friends come to work. Like they'd be bringing over their crock pots or, because we had to keep the queso warm for, I didn't have I have a couple crock pots, but not enough for 416 ounces of queso,
That's
so
crazy. Yeah.
so that was really awesome. And trying to, we had so many friends that were super sweet that realized she was doing this week after week, but didn't live local. And they would just send her Venmo donations to help her on her mission because they love her so much. And it was great. She learned how time management. I'm trying to figure out how to do all these treats ahead of time and learning how to interact with adults more, which is something she's totally going to be doing a lot of when she's serving on her mission. And so, and grocery shopping, sometimes she would have to go, we were doing apples and there was, I can't remember which, maybe it was queso. When we were doing the queso, grocery stores are been really tight on some things during the amount of things available. So she maybe had to go to 2 to 3 different stores to get the supplies that she needed to make these things. So it was really good for us all to learn all of that. So
wow, talk about a creative challenge. I mean, that's amazing to hear.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So
and bringing awesome. Real life into it, because all these skills that she learned and literally turning a thing that looks like it's going to be completely negative into a positive. And that's what my whole mission is about with gratitude, is that we've got so much that if you just look around, there's so much out there, so much opportunity, so much to be thankful for, that you just have to be a little bit creative and maybe search a little bit deeper than you normally have. And it's just all there. There's people with thriving businesses in this COVID time. And I'm glad to hear that she was able to turn what looked like initially something that was going to be a downer into such a blessing.
It was really awesome. We were so grateful. And she ended up being able to earn just enough. And she ended up getting finally another job toward the end. And so we didn't do quite as many bake sales. But it was funny because sometimes her days off would land on, we always did our sales on Thursdays or Fridays. And that would happen to be the days that she thing that she had going with her work. So that ended up being such a tender mercy. We were super grateful that she could keep doing that and work a little bit on her other job that she had. So
well, that's fantastic. So can you tell me a little bit about the podcast and how that came about?
Yeah, so I love listening to podcasts. That's kind of how it all started. And I found myself listening to a lot of mom podcasts, which is funny because now I listen to lots of different podcasts and not just so much the mom.
There's
parenting.
So many amazing ones out there. I wish I had more time in my day.
So many, I know, so many good ones. But I found myself, I kept wanting to interact. Like I'd hear him talking and be like, oh, about that, especially with I have a lot of ages and stages. My youngest is 3 and my oldest is 19. So I feel like we've got we're kind of right in the heat of all of that right now. And so it just had been on my mind for a really long time. And I also just felt this call to put out more goodness in the world, because there's so much goodness, but there is so much garbage out there too.
Yes.
And I just wanted to really help moms to find the things they were looking for. And it's funny because I've actually learned probably more from my guests than I ever thought that I would. I learn more as the person interviewing than I do as the person putting on the show, I think. So I really like talking to different people. So
I can completely relate to that. Isn't it amazing that you set out to give, but you get so much in return?
Oh yeah, I'm like, okay, now I know my next topic because I really need to work on this. So I'm going to have a guest come on and teach me all about it. And it's been great.
Absolutely. Well, that's wonderful. And then you also have a food blog too. Did that come about before the podcast?
that kind of all came together. I realized that if I was going to start a podcast, I wanted somewhere to house the podcast. And so I was trying to think of some other things that are really important to me. And cooking and eating with my family is super important. And so is travel. And so is just any kind of home or family tips. So that's what my blog is all about, is it houses my podcasts. We have family recipes, we have family travel tips, and then we have little homemaking hacks. Or, homemaking hack could be something as easy as not necessarily running your household, but something that works for you and your family that makes your family life easier. So it's been really fun. It's been an undertaking because I'm not a tech person. I'm not a business person. So I've had to really teach myself a lot of things, but it's been awesome. And I've been doing it for a few years now, and it's been great. So.
Wow. Well, that's wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being on. I was wondering if you have maybe a couple of your best tips to share with the audience. That would be wonderful to hear. What would you like to share?
So I think what I probably learned the most from this whole experience is, for me, is that if you're having a real problem, is to just get on your knees, because that's where I got the inspiration from. Is I'm a Christian person, and I really believe that God can direct us through those times that are super, super hard. And for me, I really felt like it was a little inspiration to think of those carameled apples, because I know that is not something that came from me, because I would not think of selling my friends carameled apples in the spring. I'm thinking lemon, or, it would not be carameled apples. And I really tried to take that to the Lord week after week. What treat should we be making this week? And I think it ended up being really great. We learned a lot. And I think the other thing is, once you get on your knees, get to work. Don't be afraid of the work. It's going to be crazy, but it's going to be so worth it. And we've learned so much. So that would
take action.
Yeah, take action. Get on your knees and then get to work.
Yes, I love that. And there's so many people that just you aggravate, you gather information, but we need to take action on it.
Yeah,
and we
just
need to
do it.
Yes, just do it. There's a reason the Nike slogan has worked so well. Well, thank you so much for being on today, Hillary. I'm sure that this has been an inspiration for people who are probably so many out there going through a rough time during COVID and just need a little hope and a little inspiration, and to hear some good things and being able to turn seemingly negative into a positive. So I really appreciate you being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And can you remind the audience, how can people find you if they are learning, they want to hear your podcast or your food blog? How would they?
Yes, I would love to have you come see me. So I'm Helping with Happiness across pretty much all social media. I'm really active on Instagram and Pinterest, and some on Facebook. And my blog is helpingwithhappiness.com. So I'm on Twitter, but I don't know what I'm doing on there. So yeah, go to Instagram. That's probably where you can find me the most. And I'd love any interaction. Interact with me on any platform. It'd be really fun to hear from you.
Fantastic. We can all use another helping of happiness for sure. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us again on another episode of Upward Trajectory. Hope to see you again soon. Take care.